All right. Double fries, no slaw. We're live Thursday night, December 26th. I had no plans to do this, but here we are doing the podcast anyway, doing the show anyway. So if Florida State gets a couple of commits, we'll talk about those. Listen, if you guys want to talk about anything to do with Christmas, I would actually rather talk about that. We certainly don't have to, but we could talk Christmas if anybody wanted to, if that was on anybody's mind. I really don't know if anybody cares about that or not. I would love to hear if you guys got anything fun for Christmas. Hey, could you guys tell me too? So I had been getting some comments about how we were real choppy, and so I went in and changed the bit rate. I changed some things around on this stream, and hopefully that has helped. But like on a 1 to 10, like just how choppy are we? I did another live show after after Double Fries on Sunday night, and I was told it was much, much better. So I don't know. Would love to know if you guys think it's still choppy. I'll give some love to Bet US here in a little bit. I'll give some love to Decadent. Some good news. I think Florida State, the good news is what they're doing on the trail. Again, trying to be pretty measured, trying to not go crazy on hyping everything that happens. But yeah, I think the offensive line moves on the trail are probably the most encouraging thing that's happened since, I don't know, when was the last time you were this optimistic? Before week 0, maybe? Is anybody watching this game? Is anybody watching? So I installed a TV like right up here. You guys can't see it, but it's like right here. And so now I can actually watch things that are happening. Not choppy at the moment. Good. So I changed the bit rate around, changed some things around to make it a little bit better. While we get some people in here, we'll talk FSU once some people start to flow in. But I would like to know if you guys, Rutgers, you blew it. Well, I guess they have 2 timeouts. I would like to know if anybody got anything cool for Christmas. But you gotta like tell me what the cool thing is. Like you can't just say like, oh, I got an FSU shirt. Okay, well, like what's cool about that? I mean, like, I'd assume everybody in here has FSU shirts. Even the Miami haters that have to put that on when their team goes in the dumps every couple of years. Like, so you can say just an FSU shirt or an FSU watch or what, but tell me like why it's cool. Anybody get anything signed? Any like nostalgic Coach Bowden stuff? All of that stuff. Listen, okay, the next 2 days, or I'll say this and then we'll get on to like talking about FSU while we get some people in here. The next 2 days of bowl games are actually really good. Like, I know that half the people out there are like, oh, bowl games suck now and I don't care anymore. Well, I still care because I like college football and it's almost over. And I understand the playoffs are still what's more exciting than just about everything else. But I actually like college football. Unlike a lot of people that cover this sport, that's not a shot at any creator. That's like a shot at like ESPN and all them. But since I actually like college football, I enjoy bowl games. Like I was super into watching Pitt and them, like in a million overtimes tonight, in USF on Christmas Eve, in 5 overtimes at 12:30 in the morning. If you don't like football, then, I could see how you think it doesn't matter. I'm going to have Arkansas State Bowling Green on while I do this tonight. Tomorrow, Oklahoma at Navy. Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt. Like, I kind of like Georgia Tech. Is that all right? After they beat us, I was cheering for them all year, just hoping that would make our loss better. Obviously, we just kept losing, so it didn't matter. But I cheered for Georgia Tech, obviously, late in the year against Miami. And then I wanted them to upset Georgia because that was, who doesn't like an upset? And so I'll be cheering for Georgia Tech tomorrow. Sorry, Vandy. If you can guess what's in this cup, I'll send you a free gut box tonight. A coupon. It's not actually a gut box that's going to come to your house. This is a great question. Let's get it then. You used to be the first to break commit news. What happened? So very much still like the commit stuff. However, we're going to take like 30 portal guys this year. And I just don't have maybe not 30, maybe closer to like 20, 25. And in this month of December with 3 kids now and doing the national show and everything else, I honestly just don't have the bandwidth to make 30 pre-records. And that's why I've kind of been bunching some of them up and sharing thoughts on them. So, we could certainly still like put a graphic out on Twitter, or I'm sorry, on here on YouTube every time one happens. But I honestly, like, with how many guys that we're going to take, it's hard to find the bandwidth during the month of December to do that. So I will answer it that way. Second, I feel bad a little bit. This is just me being transparent and honest about it. I feel bad a little bit about hyping up every single transfer that we got last year. Like, if you go back and watch the videos of the transfers we got, I was, oh man, this guy's coming from Bama and this guy's it. And I just want to be a little more measured this year, right? Like, I don't want to blow smoke up you guys' butts about why every commit is just the greatest thing that's ever happened to Florida State or this, that, and the other. And so because of those two things, we haven't done a video for every single guy that's come out. I have come on and tried to share thoughts about every commit, whether that's on one of these live shows, whether that's on the regular show that comes out on Sunday, whatever. But for those two reasons, I haven't done a video for every single commit that's come out. If you want me to post a graphic about it right before it happens or right when it happens, like, that's totally fine. Most of these kids are like telegraphing their commitments anyway, though, through like Pete and Akos. So, like, I don't know. The portal has taken some of the excitement out of this stuff. Like, every time, like, there are no like exciting commitments. Like, a guy visits Florida State and then shuts down his commitment or shuts down his recruitment, says we're not visiting anywhere else. And it's just kind of obvious what's going to happen. So that is a great question, though. I don't think I could do all 30 of them. But let's get into these two that we're talking about. I think Kansas State just sealed it. But FSU new center Luke Pettibon, is that how you say it? Did anybody want to correct my phonetic spelling there? That is a great question, though. Luke Pettibon, 2 years of above average grades for Wake Forest. Listen, I will give all credit here to Clay Fink for compiling this information. This isn't necessarily his information, but it is compiled. He has a year of eligibility left, 6'2", just under 300 pounds, 22 starts, and all ACC center, which I think is huge, right? Like, I don't think the ACC is the best conference by any means, but if you're an all-conference player in any conference, obviously you're at the top of where you're at. The most impressive thing to me, and I asked somebody about this earlier, I'm not going to read off every single stat that he's got. He had an 88.3 pass block grade. And Florida State, we were so atrocious pass blocking this year that it wasn't even funny. We were terrible. We want to give so much grief to DJ and Brock and Luke and talk about how this guy's ready or this guy's not ready or DJ this or DJ that. And none of them were great, right? Like, there's no doubt about it. They were all really bad. However, the pass blocking at Florida State this year was so god-awful bad that I don't know how they could have been good. Like, I don't know how any of those quarterbacks, like, I'm not trying to hype him up after he's done or whatever, but DJ Uiagalelei with just an average offensive line, like a top 50 offensive line, I think Florida State wins 6 games. Like, maybe that's a crazy thing to say, but like, I do. I think they beat BC. I think they beat Georgia Tech. I think they beat Memphis. They probably find a way to beat Duke, right? If he's not hurt. And then who knows? Maybe they find one more win, right? Like, there's 5 right there. And so they probably find a way to beat Florida. I don't know. Florida scored 17 points off turnovers. So I don't know. I just think that upgrading your pass blocking is so important. He was average to just slightly, he was kind of replacement level at run blocking. He wasn't great there. He kind of took a step back from where he was in 2023. He had an average grade. It wasn't a bad grade by any means, but he was average run blocking. He was really, really good when Wake Forest passed the ball and had one of the best grades. I mean, it might have been the best pass blocking grade for a center in the conference. And then obviously he won. He was all ACC. Only gave up 7 pressures in 2024, way better than anybody on our offensive line. And so you probably have your starting center. They will probably allow that to be a competition. I think they'll let Rizzy compete out for it. I think, I don't know if Maurice Smith is coming back for his 87th year or not, but I do really like the pickup there. You're bringing in guys this year. I think the biggest difference to me, as Kansas State does win it, you're bringing in guys that actually have proven production. And yeah, you didn't go out and get Georgia's left tackle or Texas's guard, or you're not pulling those guys. And to be fair, nobody is, right? Like, Texas's tackles and guards, like, those guys aren't leaving. But you are going to programs that have, or you're getting guys from programs that are somewhat respectable, right? Wake wasn't a great team. They weren't even a good team this year. They were pretty bad. But you're getting guys that have proven production. And if you can just get your offensive line to average, doesn't need to be good next year. I'd love if it was good. I think you'll be in much better shape. Obviously, that commit happens today, the day after Christmas, a little bit of a late Christmas present. You got another one the day before Christmas in Michael Pettis. I don't know. I don't know how to say these guys' names. I'm not going to pretend like I'm some wizard. Had a 72.8 PFF grade, the best of his career in 2024. He was the opposite. Really good run blocking, above average, his best run blocking year ever. Pass blocking was just average. Again, so you're not, I won't name any names, but we've taken guys before that are really, really good at one and then just absolute dog crap at the other. I think in these two pickups, you've gotten guys that are really, really good at one and then average at the other. You know, it's hard to, let's just be honest, it's hard to find guys that are just elite at both run and pass blocking, but you're not grabbing guys that have just been terrible at one side of that or the other. So an average pass blocker, a really good run blocker on the outside. He allowed 18 pressures last year, only 1 sack. So you would hope that with a pretty mobile quarterback, I mean, for all intent and purposes, probably Castellanos at this point. If Brock Glenn beats him out, we'll see. But a guy that only allowed 1 sack, 2 hits, again, thanks to Clay Fink of Noles 24/7 for compiling those stats. Pretty low penalties on him, about half a penalty a game, right? So 1 every other game. You also picked up a wide receiver. We'll talk about Deuce in a minute. But could you have your entire offensive line kind of set for next year? You obviously pick up the center. You pick up 2 tackles in Gunnar Hansen, the Vandy transfer, and Pettis from Ole Miss, the tackle on the other side. Maybe Richie Leonard starting at one of the guard spots, and then Medley from UCF at the other guard spot. I'm sure they'll make that a competition. Maybe Otto, maybe somebody jumps in and takes one of those spots. But I think your offensive line is pretty solidified as far as what you would assume that it is. Maybe somebody steps up. You actually have some tackle frames, which is nice. Gunnar Hansen, 6'5", 330. Micah Pettis, 6'7", 350. Both guys have over 2,000 snaps. Both of them have started Micah has started 29 games, Hansen 35. Both playing SEC level competition. I don't know. It's pretty hard to not like what they've done in the portal. I really like the kid that went to Ohio State. I think he'd have been great. It's hard to beat Ohio State out for kids when you're 2-10 and they're in the second round of the playoffs right now. So all in all, not trying to hype up I feel like a broken record at this point, and it kind of goes to the question that was asked earlier. Not trying to hype up every single thing that this staff does. I do appreciate the fact that you're bringing in guys with proven production. And to me, that was the biggest problem last year is you were bringing guys in on high school evaluations, relationships, which that's not always bad. Like they brought in Trey Benson off high school evaluate. Like they've done that and they've had some success with that. Benson had 6 yards at Oregon. And I understand there was an injury and other things that can certainly work. But man, after you last year went all kind of relationships, high school evaluations, 0 college production, man, that is such a crapshoot, right? You took so many guys that fit that mold. And this year you obviously have gone a completely different route. So I really like the offensive line pickups. I'm not telling you that Florida State's going to have a top offensive line in college football or even a top offensive line in the ACC. I would think that they could be in the top half of the ACC. What is it, 18 teams now? 17, 18 teams? I would think that they could be in the top 10. If they can have a top 10 offensive line, they're going to be in a lot better shape. And if Castellanos' legs can kind of erase some other mistakes, you'll be in pretty good shape there. Hey, we will, since it's Christmas, I mean, not really since it's Christmas. We'll do this either way. But I will put a link in the description. If anybody wants to call in and chat, ask questions, complain, talk about Christmas, talk about bowl games, talk about the playoffs, whatever. We'll hang out for an hour tonight. We're 15 minutes in. We'll hang out till 10 or so. If this dies off, then maybe we'll go earlier. But there is a call-in link in the description if anybody wants to hit that. You're more than welcome to. Hey, listen, I didn't know one way or the other what the thoughts on this would be. Let me make myself not be on mute. But do we like at all the The hats, the Christmas hats. Is this dumb? I like the Christmas hats. I know that absolutely means nothing to what we're doing, but I do like the Christmas hats on these offensive line transfers. I'm a big fan. I worked really hard on those. Actually, I didn't work hard on those at all. Hey, if you're betting on any of the games that are coming up here over the next week or so, if you're going to bet this weekend, make sure you're using BetUS. You can use our code YouTube150 for 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit. You get $125 on your next two. All of that up to $2,000. Appreciate BetUS for their support. What about the Deuce Robinson pickup? Let me ask you guys, what do you think about the Deuce Robinson pickup? I will... Okay, 134 up to number 10. 10 in the ACC. Top 10 in the ACC. I'm not saying they can have a top 10 offensive line in college football. Let's back that up. Let me make sure I clarify that. If they can be top 10 in the ACC, I think they could probably be around, 50, 60 in all of college football. So yeah, Sean, don't be quoting me as saying that we're going to be top 10 in the country. Yeah, last year's quarterback was rated the highest in years in high school. That's what I think Florida State needs to go away from. They need to go away from high school rankings in the portal. I think that's what they relied on. I think they relied on relationships they had in high school and then high school like projection, like what their ceiling could have been. And I think they need to go after more proven production this year. And they've done that. Is Vandy where you want? I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. But is Vandy better than a 5-star that's never done a thing, Just because he went to Georgia, just because he's a Legacy, just because this, that, and the other? No, yeah, I'd rather take the guy that's got some proven production. So if you'd like to call in, the link is below. You're more than welcome to hit that. Deuce Robinson, obviously an exciting one there because he's a Legacy, because of his size, because of what you think his ability could be. Obviously, that one was really exciting. When did he commit? Was that on Monday? I think so. I think that was before the. I think he committed on Monday. Yeah, 4 days ago. Or was that Sunday? Did he commit? No, he didn't commit on Sunday because we didn't talk about it. It might have been Sunday night, but I don't know. Deuce Robinson comes in, number 5 overall transfer. I don't know how much I buy into the transfer ratings. I don't know how much I care about that. I do like 6'6", 220, though. He's huge. I think he can certainly, I don't think you need another tight end. I really, really like the UCF tight end. In fact, I said this on Sunday too, so I'm not trying to repeat it. But I spoke with some people at UCF that really did not like losing him. They really hated the fact that they lost their tight end. And I like that pickup a ton. I'm not telling you he's going to come in here and win the Mackey or anything crazy like that, but I really like the tight end room, especially if you end up losing Amari to defensive end. You're not going to lose him. Did anybody guess this? Did anybody guess what was in this? But if you lose Amari and then you have Landon and your pickup from UCF, obviously I think you're in a much better spot. And if you keep Amari and you have 3 really good tight ends plus a really big Deuce Robinson, then I think you're pretty excited about that. The thing that I don't love about Randy Pittman, tight end from UCF, the thing that I haven't loved about Norvell's offense, and I do hope that Gus can kind of help with, this has always been weird to me. I don't know if it's a coaching thing, like if it's a scheme thing, or if it's a like an actual instruction thing, but I feel like our wide receivers never actually get open. Unless it's just like a go route where they get behind guys, which is a little bit different. That's more just, can you get past your guy? More about physical ability. I don't think our routes are very good. And so I don't know if that's more on Norvell for the way that he designed the offense. It feels like he likes one-on-one matchups as opposed to just scheming guys truly open. And again, I'm not trying to complain, but if that is going to be what we continue to do, if we try and get one-on-one matchups, I like going away from these 5'9" wide receivers that we're trying to get to win one-on-ones. Like, give me all the 6'6" guys and all the tight ends and all the guys that are really big and can just physically dominate the guy across from them. Now, I hope that with Malzahn coming in, we can improve that some, but I like the size of some guys that we've brought in. Deuce, obviously, incredibly talented. You really like just kind of his physical ability. ranked 5th in the nation in yards per reception. So I think you obviously didn't have a ton of catches, 16 catches, 351 yards. I'm sorry, 396 yards and 5 scores. His freshman year, he led the country, or he was top 5 in the country in yards per reception. I think like when you're thinking about what kind of production you can get out of him, if you really feature him, I think you can get that well over 500 yards. Depending on how much they pass, right? Like that's a big question. How much is Malzahn going to want to throw the ball versus run the ball? Obviously, you have to be somewhat balanced, but yeah, a huge pickup there. Your wide receiver room just ultimately hasn't been good enough. That's not a shot at any of those guys, but it's time for some new blood. It's time to kind of turn some things over there and improve that. And so I think the Deuce Robinson pickup is really, really big. Not, no pun intended. So Biscuit back at tight end. Yeah. So to me, sit back a little bit. Biscuit back in tight end. I wonder how much production, like obviously you think he'd be like a really big blocker for you and stuff, but how much they're going to throw him the ball with how talented of pass catchers some of the other guys are. To me, all right, I'm not complaining. It sounds like I'm just complaining all night tonight. The Biscuit pickup, and I'd love to eat crow on this. I'd love to be complete. It's a little bit of a weird take to me. I just don't know how they're going to utilize him. But I do think they're going to run the ball a ton, and so maybe it does make sense to have him kind of in there as a capable pass catcher, but a guy that can absolutely move people blocking for you. I don't know, but that's still kind of a weird one to me. I don't know that I love it. I do think Pittman, again, very plus level blocker. I don't know if Landon or Amari are, going to be great blockers for you or not. We'll see if Amari even stays on his side, on the offensive side. But I do think Pittman's a really good pickup for that. And then obviously I think Biscuit as well. Do you think FSU has any players on the portal now, might change his mind and come back? Any players in the portal now that have gone in the portal and might come back? No, not off the top of my head. Somebody will do it tomorrow just because I said no, but I don't think so. And I think most of them have committed, right? You think about it, like it sounds like Malik is going to Texas A&M. Obviously, Luke's already committed. Pat Payton's already committed. Armella's already committed. Not that you necessarily would be like, oh, come back. Sean Murphy, no. I'm trying to think like who else is even in the portal that you might like not consider bringing back, but like who would even, is there anybody in your mind? I forget who asked that. But is there anybody in your mind, George, that you would say like, we want this person back? I don't mean that in a mean way, but like, I don't know. I don't know that I'm so worried about that. Biscuit is not a plus blocker. How did he grade out? You would think with his size, with a little bit better coaching, that might improve. But I mean, I don't know that you're bringing him to catch a ton of passes, right? Like with his size, you certainly want him to be able to move some people. I don't know. That's why the Biscuit one to me is a little bit of a question. I'm not trying to hate on it. I want to win games. If Mike thinks that that's what he can do best to win games, then that's why it's weird to me. I agree on speed. I mean, you'll get Jalen Lucas back next year. That kind of gives you a gadget there. And super quick. But I don't think they're done at wide receiver. I would certainly grab more out of the portal there. We'll see what they're able to do. We'll see if Texas Tech doesn't steal everybody they've got. Ugh. Anybody watching the NFL game? 3-3 at halftime, or 30 seconds till halftime is pretty brutal. All right, there is a link in the bottom if anybody wants to call in. If not, it's just going to be me rambling for the next 30 minutes. So link in the description, also link in the comments. In fact, I can, Harlan, I see you in there. In fact, we can throw another link in there just to make it easy. If anybody wants to call in, if anybody wants to chat. Did we, Harlan, look at Harlan being 1 second faster than me. Did anybody get anything cool for Christmas? Any FSU stuff that we need to talk about? That's honestly, that's all I want to talk about is what you guys got for Christmas. Also, well, we don't have to talk. I've beat that horse to death. It is great. I don't know how much you guys have paid attention to it or how much you guys care. It is great seeing everybody hate on Herb Street right now. like all the national guys, not just crazy FSU lunatics, but also everyone else, hate on the machine, which is pretty fun. So I don't know. I don't. Are you guys enjoying that or not? King Biscuit replaced Williams. Also, who would you want to see Benson return? I don't know, man. Just the way that so I have nothing against Benson, and maybe he just kind of felt like, man, last year sucked so bad. I just need a fresh start. But I didn't think that like the way that Benson announced his departure, not in a bad way or anything, but the way that he announced it just like moments after the NCAA put the rule out, like, hey, we are allowing the JUCO stuff. He announced his portal departure like almost immediately. And so the fact that he's landing at A&M kind of makes me think that Florida State said like, hey man, we're going to try and upgrade at this position. We're going to try and go a little bit of a different route. And obviously he was waiting to put his name in the portal for as soon as he would have eligibility. Like he dropped it within an hour and he was gone. So I think that Florida State had kind of figured or probably let him know like, hey man, our plans are kind of going in a different direction. And I'll tell you, you're not committing to A&M without there being some, being some money that's exchanged, right? Like you're not going to A&M for too many other reasons at this point, especially to kind of that be the, like immediately after he put his name in the portal, Pete Nakos of On3 was like, this is probably where he'll end up. And so it's kind of like, well, this is maybe obvious what's going on. MJJ is a good question. Yeah. So I don't know that he would want to come back as a depth piece, if I'm just being honest, but it is very strange to me. And as long as unless I've just missed this, like, why is he not set up any visits? Why is nobody rumored like where he might land? Like he's got to be wanted by someone, right? Like and I'm not trying to be a jerk, but like, even if it is a lower level program, if you got to take a step down, he's got to be wanted by somebody, unless maybe there's a playoff team. But like some of these playoff teams are taking transfers. Like this is not like these playoff teams aren't taking guys. Like Arizona State's taking guys, Texas is taking guys. Like, so it's weird to me that nothing is set up unless you guys have seen that. I also think for just all parties involved, I don't want to, being the day after Christmas, I don't want to crap on people too bad, but I just don't think that he was a great fit at Florida State. I think you're probably better off from a culture perspective with him moving on. I thought he played better at times through the year. Actually, one game, he was absolutely terrible for about the first half, and then I tweeted about him, and he got like 2.5 sacks. And so maybe I should have just tweeted about him more, but I stopped after that. And so maybe that was my fault. Maybe it's my fault for not tweeting about him before every game so he would play well. I think it's probably best for FSU to move on. Both parties to fresh start somewhere else. I don't think he was going to be an incredible, production guy for you this year anyway. And so, yeah, maybe best for all parties there. Yeah, Thorne, you got it. I just don't want to say it live. So, are y'all going to say that this year will be your best O-line you have had in years again? Well, I will say this. It cannot be any worse than last year, being the worst Power 4, I guess, offensive line in the country. I don't know. I wonder, John, if Nick Saban will say it again too. Like, I wonder if Nick Saban will say that this was his take for like ACC champs, best on both sides of the line. I wonder if that guy will say it. I wonder if Vegas will rank Florida State. Like, there's this narrative out there, and John, I appreciate you saying this just so that I could kind of talk to it a little bit. There's this narrative out there that everyone knew Florida State was going to be terrible, and no one but Florida State fans thought that Florida State would be any good this year. Only the crazy FSU fans thought they might be good. When their over-under in Vegas was 9.5, they were the favorites to win the ACC. They had the best odds to go to the playoff. Nick Saban said that they were going to be the best. Pete Thamel of ESPN said that they were the best defensive line, not only in the ACC, but in the country. All of these, Florida State didn't live up to any of that thing. But this narrative around, Florida State thought they were going to be good, and then they sucked. Yeah, everyone else thought they were going to be good too. Did they think they were going to be 2013 or 2023 good? No. Florida State fans didn't think they were going to be 2023 good. I think I predicted 10-2. Obviously, we got the inverse of that. But this idea that Florida State fans were the only ones that thought Florida State was actually going to be good is pretty laughable. When the GOAT, when Nick Saban came out and said that they're one of the most talented teams in the country. So maybe he was in Dublin when he said that, and so he was only talking about Dublin, the teams that were in Dublin. But yeah, my gut is that wasn't the case, that he actually thought we were going to be good. Why can't FSU recruit offensive line? FSU, yeah, I think Florida State has I think FSU has recruited offensive line fairly well, just for what it's worth. I think we went through that, but they've recruited a lot of blue chip guys. Jonathan Daniels, Lucas Simmons, Armello was highly rated. They've recruited it fairly well. The problem is the coaching's just been terrible there, right? They haven't developed anybody. Herb Hand comes in with more draft picks at UCF than Alex Atkins had at Florida State. So I actually think they have recruited it fairly well. I just don't think they've coached it very well. You guys have no depth behind the O-line you did pick up. That's why FSU will always be behind. Your ones are average and your twos are bottom line garbage. Yeah, we'll see. They've recruited them fairly well. They've got good recruits coming in. They've done a good job of recruiting that position. Even this year, with losing Solomon Thomas, where they pick up 2 blue chip guys. I think they had 2 blue chip guys in the class before. So you've got a room of FSU depth chart. I don't know how updated it is. But you've got a pretty good, you've done a fairly good job of recruiting that position. You just obviously have done a very piss poor job of actually getting anything out of it. Jonathan Daniels, blue chip. Jalen Early played a ton this year. ITT, blue chip. Richie Leonard coming back as a transfer. Lucas Simmons, blue chip. So yeah, they've recruited that position fairly well. Jonathan Daniels, yeah, we just mentioned him. They just obviously have not coached that position worth a damn. And so we'll see. No depth behind it. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It's hard to know what you'll get out of that. Because it's obviously such a different scheme and style and system and things like that. So I don't know. Yeah, the depth is, if you just moved all the starter, I disagree with the depth thing. If you have the kid from UCF start and Richie Leonard start, and you have Early and Otto at guard, I do think you're in a little bit better position. And Rizzi at center. Now, I'll say the tackle depth isn't great. You'd hope that you can get something out of maybe Jonathan Daniels or Lucas Simmons to provide you some depth there at tackle. But I think the tackle depth is certainly a question. But I think on the interior, their depth isn't bad. You got some young guys that took a lot of snaps this year. And Jacob Rizzi, if he doesn't start. So, yeah, I'll push back on the depth just being terrible. I think at tackle, it's certainly a question mark. But we'll see. Which running back will get the majority of the carries? How many rushing yards will Castellanos have? I'll tell you, by the end of the year, it would not surprise me if... So, I don't know about total carries, but it wouldn't surprise me if Chroma had the most carries in the last half of the year. I don't know if he's going to have the most carries from the very beginning, but if you just asked me the last 6 games, I would probably go with him. How many rushing yards will Castellanos have? How many did he have at BC both the last 2 years? Thomas Castellanos. I'm going to mess that up for the rest of literally humanity. Stats. Look at Bowling Green getting back into it. Good night. He had 1,113 yards rushing in 2023. And then Bill O'Brien wouldn't let him run the ball this last year in 2024, and he had 194. I'll split the difference. I'll say he has 500 or 600. 500 or 600 rushing yards. Put that down as my official guess. I see FSU winning 8 games next year. I don't know. 8 to me is really tough. I've got 6 or 7, but we'll see. I need to see a lot more from them to start the year. When I look at the schedule next year, I think there are 4 games that are incredibly tough. We've talked about this. Alabama's incredibly tough. Miami's incredibly tough. Florida's incredibly tough. And Clemson's incredibly tough. Not saying that those are not winnable games. We'll see what Miami does with their secondary. We'll see what they do with quarterback. But those are still tough games. One way or the other, those are tough games. Everything else should be a win. But it's hard to say that when you win 2 games because there should have been a lot of wins this year. So to me, 8-4 would be a really good year. If I offered you right now, you could lose those 4 games and nothing else, like I guarantee you an 8-4 season, but you lose the 4 times that you're probably going to be an underdog. Like, let's be real. You're going to be an underdog on the road at Clemson. You're going to be an underdog when Bama comes to town. You're going to be an underdog on the road at Florida unless their season has just completely fallen off. And I think there's a decent chance you're an underdog at home to Miami. At best, you're like a 3-point favorite, so still a coin flip. So I was going to tell you, like, I know nobody wants to concede losing to the rivals or any big games right now. But if I was going to tell you, right, like, those are the 4 games you're an underdog, and you're a favorite in every other game. So you're going 8-4. To me, that'd be a pretty good result. Like, I'd love to upset one of those 4 teams we just talked about or beat one of those 4 teams. But in all reality, 8-4 is not terrible if that's the case. The problem with football is you typically lose a game you're not supposed to, or you typically play bad in a game you're not supposed to. A team like NC State beats you, or a team like Virginia Tech beats you that you're not expecting, right? Virginia Tech nearly beat Miami this year. So I don't know. I think 8-4 would be a great year. I'm closer to 6-6, 7-5. Why did we lose our top recruit so well? Yeah, the staff sucks at recruiting. Hopefully they're a little bit better this year. I do like FSU's offensive line coach a lot. That's just tea. It's just half and half tea. Nobody guessed it. Yeah, I really do like. I've always liked Master of Dream. Yeah, all those guys are on the roster that I just mentioned. Jonathan Daniels, Lucas Simmons. They all are. Every single blue chip that I mentioned is still on the roster. ITT still on the roster. Lucas Simmons, Jonathan Daniels, and then the guys they picked up this year, the blue chips, are still on the roster. So yeah, they are. But yeah, I've always liked Herb Hand. I always thought that was a good pickup. It's probably the hire that I'm the second most excited about behind Knighton. What's the wide receiver room looking like? It still needs to get better, without a doubt. Picking up Deuce is a big deal. I don't think that's enough. I think that has to improve. All right, let me try and catch up. Oregon fan, my guy. Hey, we got some Oregon fan. I don't. Do you ever? We've got a national channel, College Football Addiction, Mr. Master of Dreams. You should go check out. We got some Oregon content coming on Sunday. And then maybe some more before that too. Every time I see players eating fried, unhealthy food, we need a football-only facility to get their bodies developed. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any kind of I don't have any idea on I don't have any idea on the nutrition side of things. I hope Miami doesn't get... No, he's already signed with Oklahoma. I would be surprised if he asked out of that. I do think, dude, Miami's schedule next year. Have you guys... I know this is not a Miami show, but while we're here, we can talk about it for just a second. Have you looked at Miami's schedule? Miami 2025 football schedule. Like, that cupcake of a schedule they had this year, like, they're about to pay for it. They open up with Notre Dame, playoff team. They have Florida in week 4. They have a pretty decent USF team that kind of gave them everything they wanted last year. Obviously, they play us. They play Louisville. They play NC State. They got to go to Pittsburgh. They got to go to SMU. They got to go to Blacksburg to play Virginia Tech. And they play Fran Brown and Syracuse again, who beat them this year. This is not like they had a cupcake of a cupcake schedule. And they're lucky they played Florida at the beginning of the year this year, because Florida was obviously, as much as we hate them, a much better team late in the year, and Miami was obviously dipping. I think Florida could go down there and beat them. And you have 2 road teams winning that series 2 years in a row. Miami could very well win that game at home. We'll see what they do at quarterback. But Miami's, I think they're gearing up for like an 8-4 fall off type year. We'll see. I'm hoping. Maybe I'm just kind of a little bit. Maybe I'm just hopeful that they suck again next year. But it wouldn't surprise me. They're going to take a loss in week 1. They're going to lose to Notre Dame. And then we'll see. I think that just kind of like starts. You see Miami quit so early in years. And without a good quarterback, I know they're excited about Emory, but certainly they got to go get somebody out of the portal. That can't actually be what they, the route that they try to go without Cam Ward. Certainly they don't think they could go from Cam Ward. I could see them starting Emory and then going to nickel at some point. their freshmen after Emory sucks for the first few games. I could see them going to the true freshmen and building for 26. I think their drop-off will not be as historic as ours, but the drop-off is coming, without a doubt. So we'll see. We'll see what they do in the portal. Maybe I'll adjust that. To my Oregon guy, though, that's in here, how ridiculous is it with the playoff committee that Oregon has to play Ohio State and Georgia has to play Notre Dame, and then the two teams that lost their conference championships get to play like absolute nobodies? Like, I'm not trying to hate on Kenny. I hope they win against Texas. And I'm not trying to hate on Boise State. But the fact that Boise State's a 3 seed is asinine to me. But, like, the teams that lost the conference championships get easier roads. And the teams that won the conference championships have to play two of the better teams left, Notre Dame and Ohio State. Ohio State, when they play up to their potential, might be the best team in the country. Obviously, they didn't play up to their potential against Michigan, and that clouded the way that people think about them. But if Ohio State's playing well, like if Ohio State beats Oregon, I'm not predicting that. I'm not saying it happens. I know this is not why you guys tuned in, was to hear this. If Ohio State beats Oregon, they'll probably go win it all. Like, that's my take on them. If they take down Oregon, they're going to go win it all. It's insane that Oregon and Ohio State have to play each other right now, this round. They should reseed it. They should reseed it like the NFL. Oregon, Ohio State is probably going to be the best game of the playoffs. Is that a hot take? No, I mean, I see Texas or Oregon could be a really good game. Texas, Ohio State could be a good game. Texas versus Ohio State, Oregon is probably going to be the best game of the rest of the playoffs. And it's dumb that it happens in the quarterfinals. So, John, I appreciate you in here watching this, man. I do appreciate that. How many more portal players are needed? How many we picked up? 10? We're at 10 right now. 4 offensive line, Deuce, tight end, 5, 6, Biscuit, 7, defensive line, 2, 7, 8, Castellanos, 9, 10. Yeah, I'd say at least 10 more. It would surprise me if they don't get to 20 portal guys. I just think you need to fill out your roster. I think you have the space for that. There's a couple of guys that I'm pretty surprised haven't jumped in the portal yet. Well, wait a minute. Let me back up on that. No, maybe I'm not surprised. Maybe we're done, pretty much done. I think we might be done with guys leaving. But yeah, I'd say you need 8 to 10 more. It would surprise me if they don't get up close to 20, just because of how many guys I think they need. I think they also might fill it out with a couple more 25 guys here in this class if they can pick them up. I'm not super hopeful on that, but they could get a couple more high school guys from the late window, the late signing day. But I would guess like 10 more portal guys. Georgia is still Georgia. Yeah, no, I think Georgia has a really good. Yeah, I think Georgia could win it. I'm just telling you, I think this could be the best game. Ohio State, Oregon, probably the best game left in the playoffs. Scholarship calp is really high. Yeah, 105. Oh, did you see Crow's son? That's pretty cool. Offering him a scholarship on Christmas Day. I'd expect that they end up getting him. I don't know that he would be a scholarship guy without the cap, but now that you've got the cap extended, you can offer him a scholarship. And I think you should probably do that with all legacies for your absolute excellent guys that played at Florida State. So, I will just very quickly give Decadent Coffee some love. Decadent Coffee and Dessert Bar. If you are anywhere near Modesto, California, Fulton, Maryland, or Warner Robins, Georgia, make sure that you stop by and say hello. Grab some coffee. Tell them you saw it. Ask for my guy Patrick. See if he's there in the Warner Robins store. But dude, this guy just scored a touchdown and did a backflip for Arkansas State. Just insane levels of I'm asking to get hurt in the middle of a play. But make sure you stop by and say hello. Tell them you saw them on Double Fries No Slaw. And then once we get their product in hand, their new store is coming early part of 2025. We'll certainly get some info on that out for you. It's going to be in Florida. All right, what else you guys got? Let's see. Tennessee defensive lineman. I texted my Tennessee guy when I was getting on here to ask about Jason Jenkins, the question there on him. And I texted just to ask about it, and I just haven't heard anything yet. I mean, 9 tackles, 2 sacks, Obviously, he didn't have a ton of production. So I don't have a great answer for you there. I texted to ask and just was hoping to get an answer before we got too deep into chatting right now. He was ranked, or he actually had a little bit better the year before, 32 tackles, 5.5 sacks. I don't know. With that kind of drop in production, was he hurt? Did he play less games this year? Nope. He played just about every game. It looks like he didn't have any stats against Ohio State or Georgia, Kentucky, Alabama. So maybe he was out for some time. But yeah, certainly a drop off in production, but showed some things in 23 that I think would be pretty good. I don't know. I don't have a real solid read on the Tennessee defensive lineman. The early January visit, probably a good sign. Florida State needs to do a good job of kind of shutting that down. Florida State ACC stuff. Yeah, in season, we haven't talked about it as much. I don't expect anything between now and the end of the college football season. I think most of the realignment stuff is pretty on hold right now. Obviously, all the court stuff is pretty slow with just a lot of both sides delaying things. Some people, the real quick thing that I've heard is some people are confident that they'll come to some kind of agreement before the next football season. That's not anytime close. Whether that's Florida State staying in the ACC or leaving, I have no idea. Obviously, we all kind of hope it's leaving, but I wouldn't expect anything. I wouldn't expect anything before February 1st. I haven't heard about the ESPN deal being renewed that we've talked about a ton. If that's not renewed, then it certainly opens up some kind of a door. If that is renewed, a lot of people think that could actually open up a door too. But we'll see. They're going to go to court and continue to fight about it. So I don't really have a ton. We're going to try the Ivy League. We might be able to win that. Could Miami make the Ivy League championship, the conference championship in the Ivy League? That's a good question. How likely is it, do you think, that Notre Dame can beat Georgia? Because I get that Beck is out, but my gut is starting to tell me that Georgia wins that. Not easily, but that Georgia, Notre Dame's a little bit overrated right now. If you take away I know you can't. I know you can't take it away. But if you take away the 98-yard touchdown run, they didn't win that game very impressively. And I'm not even counting the late touchdowns that got, Indiana back in it. But without that, they won that game 17-3. Right? I don't know. I didn't think Notre Dame was that impressive. I'm kind of starting to think that Georgia wins that going away, and that spread's not close enough. Or the spread's too close, I'm sorry. So, I don't know. I think Georgia wins. I'd love if Notre Dame won. I like Notre Dame. I like Marcus Freeman. I don't like Notre Dame. I know a lot of people hate them. I certainly like them more than I like Georgia. What are your picks? Do you have any? Does anyone pull an upset? Are there any upsets? I think the only upset that I could see would be Ohio State. And I guess that's not really an upset because they're a slight favorite. But the only lower seed that I can actually see winning, I can't see, as much as I'd love it, I can't see Kenny and them winning. I certainly don't see Boise State winning. I don't really see Notre Dame winning. Maybe that one could happen. But Ohio State feels like the only one that could actually happen. That Notre Dame-Georgia game is going to be ugly. I would love if that game was 7-3 final so that everybody could tweet at Lane Kiffin. That would be the greatest thing to me. I'm also excited about that Georgia game because either way, I think Florida State fans win. Either a backup quarterback goes out and wins because his team balls out around him, ACC championship last year, or they shouldn't have been in because their backup was hurt and it kills the SEC. So either way, I think Florida State fans have a pretty good angle there. I just literally gave away the recipe for what happens in that. Who wins the national championship? I'll cheat and just say the winner of Ohio State, Oregon. And right now, I might be a little crazy for doing this. I'm leaning Ohio State. I might be just drinking too much Kool-Aid after they did what they did to Tennessee. Obviously, they're not going to play another home game like that. But man, if they can continue to put it together like they did in that game, their talent is better than everybody else's. It just is. There is just no answer for what they can do offensively. Their defense is incredibly good. They shut down the run fairly well. And so I'd lean Ohio State right now. That might be crazy to pick a 7 seed, but Yeah, if they just don't, I think if they just don't blow it against Michigan, even if they just win close, I think people look at Ohio State way, way, way differently. So there's a reason they're a slight favorite against Oregon. We'll see. That game could certainly go either way, but I don't know. Maybe I'm leaning Ohio State. But whoever wins that game, I think whoever wins that game wins the national championship. So if Oregon wins it, then they beat Texas, then they beat whoever, Notre Dame or Georgia, and then they go on. I don't think Penn State's a real competitor. I certainly don't think Arizona State is. I like whoever wins out of Oregon and Ohio State to beat Texas too. It'd be great if we had a non-SEC national championship just so that we could watch people's heads explode. Could you imagine Kirk Herbstreit's head literally exploding on air when he doesn't have an SEC team to call a championship for? Like, that would just probably be the best thing possible. Like, how would he even form narratives at that point? Like, what would he even say? If it's Ohio State versus Notre Dame, Oregon versus Notre Dame, or Oregon versus Penn State, it'd be amazing. It would be absolutely phenomenal if he had to call that. So, yeah, that's what I'm cheering for. All right, you guys have anything else? I think we're running low. Any surprise portal pickups? No, I don't think anything will be a surprise because everybody just ends up visiting, except for the Wade kid. He didn't visit at all, right? And he just committed. So I guess you could always have one here or there, but there's nothing that I'm anticipating or expecting. Let me give one more shout out quickly to BetUS. Make sure that you're betting with them this offseason or this postseason. Again, YouTube 150 is the code if you do use them. And then Decadent, a coffee and dessert bar. Appreciate them for their support. Last year, it wasn't SEC in the championship. Yeah, Michigan and oh gosh, that was terrible, wasn't it? Yeah, you're right. 2 years in a row of that? Could you imagine the SEC adds these power programs and then doesn't have anybody in this championship either? It'd be phenomenal. Michigan and Washington, right? 17-7. All right, I think that's all I got for tonight. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Just wanted to chat with you here on a Thursday night, talk about the portal pickups, and then just random BS for 35 minutes too. So thank you guys as always. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. I'm sure we'll do this again soon. If not, we'll be back on Sunday. Love you guys. Go Noles.